It's rivalry week. 3 words you need to know. Beat the Irish.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Whether you're watching this show on YouTube or wherever you're going to download this podcast, it's free. I appreciate your support. You can show your appreciation if you're watching on YouTube. Become a subscriber. It's easy. It's free. Just click the red subscribe button. When you see that thumbs up button, smash it. And I don't want you to miss one episode of Locked On USC. We come at you 5 times a week, as well as post-game reaction. Hit that bell notification button. You're covered. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/Locked On and you can get started. USC versus Notre Dame. It's a ritual. It's college football. It's tradition. Beat the Irish. When we're talking about our favorite Trojans football team, and it's a rivalry week, there's a few of those per season. This is the one that everybody looks to and refers to first. They should. And when you're playing the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, whenever you finish a sentence or whenever you greet somebody, it should end with 3 words every time. Beat the Irish. Look, let me give you a few examples. How you doing, Bill? Beat the Irish. Hey, Mia, you want to go grab some lunch today? Beat the Irish. Literally, I can't think of one talking point or one type of platitude where saying beat the Irish doesn't feel appropriate. Like I said, it's rivalry week, so regardless of how you feel about USC's defense, deep down, you still believe the Trojans are going to win this game, right? You have to, because that's what fans do. Beat the Irish. Listen, I'm telling you, by the time we're done with this show, you're going to be saying it all day long, all the way till the end of the game. Beat the Irish. USC travels to South Bend this Saturday, and they're going to challenge the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in the 94th meeting of the greatest intersectional rivalry in college football. Look, if you can't be there, I get it. It's sold out. It's a tough ticket, but you can still watch it on TV, 4:30 p.m. on the West Coast, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to be there, and we're going to talk about why USC is going to win this game. Beat the Irish. Look, I still can't decide if this game is going to be a high-scoring game or one of those games where both teams are probably going to be in the 30s. But as much as I would love to see a blowout, for the good guys, of course, beat the Irish, USC's number 1 scoring offense is going up against a very veteran, and it's also an experienced Notre Dame defense. The Fighting Irish might not have a lot of depth at linebacker. USC fans, you know what that kind of feels like. At least you did last year. However, they're Notre Dame's starting linebackers, they're all grad students. And I think that might give USC fans a little bit better understanding, context into why local linebacker from St. John Bosco, Kingston Viliamuasa, decided to choose Notre Dame over USC. He's stepping into a starting role next year. Well, I think everybody anticipates him stepping into a starting role. The Trojans this year, let's just stick to the game right now. They have the number 1 offense in the nation, scoring offense, almost 52 points per game, 51.8. They have they're number 3 in the nation in team passing efficiency, 196.97, pretty good. And they're number 3 in the country for passing offense, 355 yards. And number 4 in total offense, USC's offense puts up 523 yards per game. Here are the Notre Dame defensive stats, and really the only one that really matters the most. Notre Dame is number 15 in the country. They only give up 16 points per game, 15.9. In their most recent loss, their 33-20 loss to Louisville last week at Louisville, they gave up 24 points for the first time this season. Now, yeah, you can go back and look at Notre Dame's schedule and say, all right, well, that makes sense. Still, they're doing a pretty good job on the defensive side of the ball. As far as their rush defense is concerned, they're middle of the road, statistically, number 60 in the country. They give up an average of 132 yards per. USC's run game at the halfway point, not bad. They're gaining 168 yards per game. That's 55th in the country, and that would put them 5th in the Pac-12. But don't look at those numbers. Look at 168 yards per game. That's a good number. Last week, Notre Dame surrendered 143 yards to a running back named Jahar Jordan. They were giving up 6.8 yards per carry just to him. And he also found the end zone 2 times. One of USC's biggest issues on defense has been tackling, right? Right. That's rhetorical. I'm telling you nothing new. Did you know, maybe this is news to you, that Notre Dame is having some tackling issues as well? Beat the Irish. Louisville's starting quarterback, Jack Plummer, is at his 3rd school. The last time he faced Notre Dame was last season when he was Cal's starting quarterback, and he actually almost beat the Fighting Irish in South Bend, but he kept throwing a bunch of interceptions in that game. His numbers this year weren't flashy, but he was money on 3rd down against Notre Dame, and his wide receivers helped him out getting some yards after the catch too. So I think it's pretty safe to say that Caleb Williams will be the best quarterback that Notre Dame has faced this year, or probably will face all season long. Beat the Irish. Offensively, Notre Dame averages 31 points per game. USC gives up 27 points per game. But remember, USC is scoring just under 52 points. That 20-point differential should be enough, right? As long as USC's defense can get off the field 3 to 4 times, look, I'll even reduce that. Get off the field 3 times without giving up any points in the first half. Do that again in the second half. And again, I'm assuming USC's offensive performance last week was an anomaly, because if the Trojans fall behind 17-0 in South Bend, coming back and winning on the road will be a much bigger challenge than it was last week. So far, Notre Dame has played 3 games against ranked opponents. They've gone 1-2 in those games. They lost at home to Ohio State, 17-14. Beat the Irish. They beat Duke in Durham, North Carolina, 21-14. And then last week they lost at Louisville. Notre Dame's quarterback, Sam Hartman, he felt the pressure against Louisville's defense. I'm not sure how good Louisville is. They might be really underrated. But Notre Dame's quarterback fumbled the ball twice. Oh, and by the way, he threw 3 interceptions as well. Beat the Irish. So, yay or nay? Sam Hartman will outplay Caleb Williams in this game. We're going to play a little bit of yay or nay, some game time projections in our next segment. So, beat the Irish. Snap into the NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there is literally no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is so easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including point spreads, player prop bets, bet the over-under. And there's a lot more than just that. So visit FanDuel.com/locked on and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. The college football season is here, and this season, Locked On is kicking up our coverage. Each Friday, Locked On will go live from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern on every Locked On College YouTube channel. Locked On College Football Live will cover the college football playoff implications, the conference rivalry games, and they're going to also go in-depth like only Locked On can, including insight and analysis from our stable of Locked On College hosts covering their team every day. Find Locked On College Football Live every Friday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern on any Locked On College Football YouTube channel. You're not going to want to miss it. So last year, USC, they took back the jeweled shillelagh. It's mounted up there in Heritage Hall, where it better stay. I know they got to take it on the road with them, but bring it home. They beat Notre Dame last year 38-27. And that was the first time they beat the Fighting Irish in 4 seasons. Beat the Irish. This is what Lincoln Riley said after that game. I don't know how long it's been since it was like that. He was referring to the atmosphere of the Coliseum. I haven't been here before, but man, it was electric in there. That's what I remember watching as a young kid. These guys brought it to life. Beat the Irish. If Coach Riley thought the Coliseum was electric, wait till he gets his first taste of a USC Notre Dame game in South Bend. He's going to get the opportunity this Saturday. Last season, Notre Dame's quarterback was Drew Pine. This year, he plays for Arizona State. However, when he played against USC last year, he looked like a Heisman contender. So here's your first question. Did Drew Pine outplay Caleb Williams last season? Yay. Statistically, he had a Heisman type of game. I mean, these were his numbers. These are pretty impressive. He was 23 for 26 passing, 318 yards, which is 12 yards per completion, 3 touchdowns against only 1 interception. Here were Caleb Williams' numbers. They weren't bad. 18 for 22 throwing, 232 yards, 10.5 yards per pass, 1 touchdown through the air. Here was the difference in the game and what Caleb got to strike his pose, that Heisman pose there on the sideline. His ability to use his legs. 9 rushes, 36 yards rushing, 4 yards per touch. But it was those 3 touchdowns. And you probably remember that last one he ran in. Faked the handoff, middle opened up. Caleb running on in, touchdown USC, game over. One of the pieces to winning a Heisman Trophy is having that Heisman moment. And that usually happens in big games. That's how it's characterized. Carson Palmer seized his back in 2002 when he put up, 400 yards on Notre Dame. Beat the Irish. Reggie Bush had his Bush push game. Beat the Irish. Caleb, he already has the Heisman. And he is by far the front runner. And it's by a large margin this season so far. He could actually make it even more comfortable for himself with one of those types of Heisman games in South Bend. He had a terrible game against Arizona. And that means this could be bad news for Notre Dame if Caleb has that bounce back game that everybody anticipates. With everybody watching on national TV and the Trojan playoff hopes lying in the balance, yeah. I anticipate Caleb having a Heisman moment or two in this game in South Bend. So, did he get outplayed last year? Statistically, yes. In the big picture, it's debatable. The Trojans are going to run for 200 yards against Notre Dame this season. I'm going to say nay. I already went over both teams' rushing numbers in the first segment. like I said, this year, Notre Dame gives up 132 yards on the ground. USC is averaging 168 yards on the ground, rushing. Advantage USC, right? Why did I pick that 200-yard number? Well, last year, USC put up 200 yards on the ground, and they were led by Austin Jones with 154 yards. USC had 204 yards after in their win against Notre Dame last year. Remember, Travis Dye, he was already lost for the season before USC got to this game. Austin Jones is back. Travis Dye is a New York Jet, but the Trojans also have Marshawn Lloyd and Darwin Barlow and Quentin Joyner and Marion Peterson. USC has got a really stocked up running back room. Here's the thing. If Lincoln Riley makes the commitment to the running game, for me, which means for me, it's at least 30 rushing attempts. They're going to get 150 yards per game. I mean, that's 5 yards per carry. For those of you who are old enough to remember Petros Papadakis interviewing USC's former running back coach, offensive line coach back in the day, Tim Davis, Petros said, "What does God want? God wants 4 yards per carry." That's what Coach Tim Davis wanted. If your running game is getting 5 yards per attempt, they're getting the job done. So 30 rushing attempts, 150 yards for the game. That's a good number. That's where I think USC is hoping to finish around. Because let's be honest, Notre Dame's probably a more physical team than USC. You give me 150 yards on the ground, you give me Caleb Williams with a 300-plus yards through the air game, USC is coming home with that win. Beat the Irish. I'm telling you, it's going to be looped in your head. USC was the first team to put up over 400 yards and score more than 32 points against Notre Dame last year. Notre Dame's going to be solid on defense. Remember, USC and Notre Dame played in the final regular season game. The Trojans have not won in South Bend since 2011. That was the first time USC and Notre Dame also played a night game in South Bend. Beat the Irish. They're playing under the lights again 12 years later. In fact, if you look at it, since 2011, every game that USC has played back there has been under the lights. USC will break the road losing streak in South Bend. Yay. Beat the Irish. Look, Notre Dame is a 2.5-point favorite, according to FanDuel. The Vegas wise guys, and I'm just talking about people who typically set these lines. Everybody knows that USC's defense has struggled this year, right? Trojan fans, you know what? I'm not telling you anything new. They're allowing 421 yards per game this year. That's 112th in the country out of 133 teams that play at the FBS level. That's not good. But they're making plays when they need to. The defense actually, I think, is going to get credit for that win against Arizona. They should get a big chunk of credit because they made some big plays when they needed to. I'm not saying they're great, but they made plays moving forward. Notre Dame might, look, if I'm Notre Dame and I'm watching that film against Arizona versus USC, run that toss sweep until USC stops it, right? Because the only time USC stopped it was that last 2-point conversion. That can't happen again. I think the reason why USC is the underdog, the weather is anticipated to be a factor. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, Notre Dame is a more physical team than USC. I'll eat crow, prove me wrong. And Lincoln Riley's teams, they have a history of kind of succumbing, wilting, wearing down as the game goes on when they play those physical teams. I'm just going to use USC last year. Utah, Tulane. It kind of looked that way against Arizona State this year. Look, I've heard the players talk, And I've heard Lincoln Riley gave I think it was a pretty passionate speech, plea, explanation regarding his defense this week after practice Tuesday. I think because USC is being disrespected, at least by the guys who set the lines, and they're coming in as an underdog, and they're the higher ranked team. They're undefeated. I think they're going to go in there with a chip on their shoulder. They're going to find a way to win this game and cover the spread. So here's my final score prediction. USC 45, Notre Dame 31. Beat the Irish. That kind of win on the road sends a message. And not just to the voters, but maybe to some of the recruits as well. I see you, Kingston Viliamuasa. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. And you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. And as easy it is to use LinkedIn to find a job, we've all been there. It's also just as easy to create a free job posting on LinkedIn Jobs. So once you add your job listing, you're then going to take your job and that purple hashtag hiring frame, and you're going to attach it to your own LinkedIn profile, and that's going to spread the word that you're hiring. LinkedIn is going to provide you simple tools like screening questions, and that's going to make it really easy for you to kind of focus on the candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and, most importantly, hire. Recruiting the right person for your team means a better product. That's why small businesses, that's why they rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus the leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions will apply. All right. My everyday listeners and viewers will remember from my last recruiting update. Yeah, you can see there on the rundown, we're going to talk a little bit of recruiting before we get out of here. I said that USC was anticipating a verbal commitment, and that would be a defensive player. Okay, well, here you go. This week, my person I work with over there, WeRSC.com, recruiting guru Scott Schrader, he put in his prediction that USC is going to receive a commitment from defensive end rush edge Jalen Harvey. That's going to happen Monday, October 16th. What that tells me, first thing you USC recruiting honks, you should probably recognize Coach Roy Manning. He's getting the job done. You see the improvement at the rush end, defensive end this year. Well, this is who he's got committed so far in the 2024 class. He's got Elijah Newby, Cameron Fountain, and we're assuming we believe Jalen Harvey. Don't forget, he also brought in Braylon Shelby last year, DJ Peavy, Sam Green. He was part of that recruiting process. And as I said, he's got those rush ends. They're playing outstanding right now. In some other recruiting news, this isn't, I don't know, something to keep an eye on. You really don't like to hear this type of stuff. There's some smoke out there surrounding Trojan defensive line commit David Palipali. This is from his ex head coach. Hempfield coach George Eager has confirmed that USC recruit and all-state two-way interior lineman David Palipali is no longer on the Black Knights roster because of disciplinary reasons. Look, I know he's been dealing with injury off and on throughout the season, so maybe there's a little bit of frustration coming from him on his part. But if the rumors are true, that he's a discipline problem, and he's been bad-mouthing his coach and his team on social media and throwing it out there, putting his news out there on Front Street. Does he really fit USC's locker room culture? I get it. He's still in high school, young man, still maturing. But, depending on, well, it's just something I think everybody's going to keep an eye on, including USC's coaching staff. Now, depending on which recruiting service you follow, Penn State is the homeschool leader for David. And we'll see if that's where he ends up. And again, still, signing day is, you got 2 signing days. You got one in December, one in February. So let's just keep an eye on this commitment, see where that goes. USC needs interior defensive linemen. And the guys that they were recruiting, and they're kind of leaving USC out of their final contender list. Jericho Johnson still has USC in his final 10, but he's not even going to make a visit to USC until after the season. And as of right now, if he was making a decision, he's leaning elsewhere to that school up north. Where's Green? Yeah. Speaking of the Oregon Ducks, junior college defensive back Sione Lale, he's picking the Ducks. Doesn't mean everything's bad news, guys. USC did just make an offer to it's a top 50 national recruit, 2024. He's out of Cibolo, Texas, Steele High School. He's a 4-star safety. His name is Dante Carter. He is currently committed to Vanderbilt. And according to the On3, he's a On 300 player. He's their number 3 safety. So not only is he good, he's also smart too, because Vanderbilt does not recruit dummies. They just don't. They are literally the Stanford on the East Coast, and they play in the Southeastern Conference, SEC. Yeah, Vanderbilt is really they are a fish out of water playing in the SEC. Some of Carter's other offers, they're not bad. You've got Baylor, Houston, Nebraska, Texas Tech, Washington. So if you're looking on paper, USC would probably be his highest rated offer as far as, football programs. You have another cornerback that USC is back in the mix with, 2024. His name is Isaiah Rubin. He plays at locally Los Alamitos High School. Again, I'm just throwing it out there. Whether it's because the staff likes his senior film, or USC's other options are kind of falling by the wayside, he loves USC, and so does his family. So we'll see where he ends up. Again, he's high on USC, and it looks like USC is circling back. They like what he's put on film so far his senior year. 4 weeks ago, I told you about Justin Taunu. I think I'm pronouncing that right. 6'6", 290+ pound tackle out of Huntington Beach. He planned to take his official visit at some point during the season. Well, he took it. It was last week when USC beat Arizona 43-41 in that triple overtime game. Word is he and his family now, they got a lot to think about. They want him to stay closer to home, even though Stanford isn't that far away. So, like I had mentioned, like I said, 4 weeks ago, that Stanford was concerned that they were going to lose him to USC. They're probably concerned a little bit more. So, Vianney Talamaavo is going to have to work a little bit harder if they want to keep that commitment. Right now, recruiting-wise, USC is throwing out offers to, class of 2025, 2026. You know my rule. I don't care until they're seniors. So I really don't care unless they're a phenom like a Juju Lewis. And you don't really hear me talking about him too often. But he is going to reclassify, and he will be at Mater Dei next year. So I will be back with another episode of Locked on USC tomorrow. My Friday rant will be a part of that show. So until then, everyone, you know what to do. Beat the Irish.